What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you the last episode for the season. This episode, just checking something. This episode, yes, I said before, is the last one for the season. So currently speaking, that's about it. There will be more, but this is episode 14. The episode is known as Out of Focus. So this episode is pretty interesting. We get to see something that it's pretty important. Makes perfect sense to include this as the last episode, only because of one aspect. If it weren't for this one thing, this episode would be pretty much a very minor episode, not one that is worth really talking to any extent, and the previous episode would have been a better finale. And yes, in some ways this kind of would have been a better episode prior to this, but whatever. So anyway, this episode has an interesting concept which I actually like a lot because it worked pretty well. So this episode has two focuses that it goes about approaching. So the first focus is actually, I'm not going to say what they each are. They'll come in time. So the episode starts off with the Autobots fighting with each other, everyone except for B. And that's all happening. And eventually there's a signal of 4 Decepticons, which results in them obviously going on their mission. So that all happens, and then in the meantime, and then they go after that, and B's happy about that, and then we get to finally first see what our other perspective is going to be, which is this perspective where we get to see this whole entire sequence where we get to see Optimus and how he trained to live and be on Earth and get used to being on Earth, and where he had to do tests for the primes, and Micronus was the one that was in charge of these tests, and he had to do some crazy stuff where he had to learn how to protect humans while also learning how to gain the full potential of the Star Saber. It's pretty interesting, pretty smart concept. So a whole sequence happens. I'm just gonna say it right away, just with the general idea that in regard to what happens, because personally it's important, but like if you just focus on that, it's really short. So I'd rather just go over what happens there in regards to the fact that there's this whole entire simulation where he's trying to get to the top of a building, which at the top of it he thinks it's just going to be nothing, when really it's actually an important piece for the saber that he has, which with it allows him to unlock the full potential of it and take out some fake simulation Decepticons and protect some fake humans. So it's a pretty substantial episode in that regard. That's the important part of the. That's the reason why this episode is pretty significant. On the other hand, for the main story, we see that there's a gang of Decepticons known as Skunkticons. Skunk, yes, skunk, not stunt, not Stunticons. Stunticons are cool. We're talking about Skunkticons. Yeah, skunks. So smelly skunks. And they're Decepticons, and the leader is known as Malador. We don't know what any of the other ones are named. We just know that Malador is the leader of the Skunkticons. So okay. So anyway, what ends up happening is that it's a little late. What ends up happening is that the Decepticons are causing trouble. They're worried that Malador may side with Steeljaw and the others, but fortunately that does not end up happening, but they are causing trouble. What ends up happening though is that eventually the Autobots do end up finding the location where the Skunkticons are. The Skunkticons spray each of them, and they each go into a state of blindness. Grimlock ends up being used as a as a um, as a hostage and brought away. The others go after him, try to find where he is, try to climb through the ceiling, and eventually climb through some elevators. And once all that happens, eventually we end up seeing where he is, and there's this whole entire fight with Malador and the other Skunkticons against the Autobots. Eventually, pretty much everyone except for B ends up being put into a state of blindness. B manages to save them though eventually, and once they are saved, they then decide to go after Malador and the other Skunkticons, and so that all happened. And then from the other perspective, we end up seeing. We then end up seeing from the other perspective the Autobots dealing with Malador, and when they finally and the other Skunkticons, which is a really easy battle because first of all they're not that fast, second of all they're not that threatening. I mean, other than the blindness, they're pretty weak, so they have a very weak defense. So anyway, this all happens. The fight's pretty short. As you can tell right now, I'm only 6 minutes in. There's really not that much else that happens. It's a pretty straightforward episode. It's actually one of the shorter episodes in that regard. I mean, the length itself is long just because of the whole entire fighting sequences between Optimus and the simulation Decepticons and the simulation Minicons that he uses and all sorts of other things. But overall, it's very minor in regard to what's really going on. I mean, the Decepticons themselves aren't that interesting. I mean, they shoot fumes, which is, I mean, that's okay, but it's so minor that it's like, it could be better. Like, I don't think it's bad, but I think that if there was more to the episode itself, that I would be able to talk about it to an extent. I mean, there's this whole entire idea of, B always wanting to be like Optimus, and he never can live up to what Optimus was and has always been. So because of this, there's all that stress that builds over time. And personally, because of all this stress, it creates his personality in the show, which personally I love his personality, and I think that a lot of people really do need to appreciate his personality because he's a really cool character. So anyway, this is about it, guys, for the first season. The second season hasn't come out yet. I'm not sure if it will be referred to as a second season or just a continuation of what we already have. I'm guessing it might be a second season. I'm not sure if Japan has started releasing episodes for it yet, but if they have, I might eventually look into it. Not necessarily immediately, but probably sooner rather than later. More than likely, I just want to give you a heads up that I probably will end up starting some reaction time videos again for Transformers. And so this time it will be Transformers, which will be interesting because before it was Power Rangers, so now it'll be Transformers, and we'll be doing all that. I do plan on also getting some actual toy reviews of some Decepticon of some Transformers merchandise. What I was hoping for in particular was to possibly get Devastator, since he's coming out soon, which should be awesome. I really want to get Devastator since he's massive, and there could be a lot of really cool reviews out of that, as well as maybe some other Combiner Wars and maybe a few G1 figures, hopefully, or at least some Masterpiece figures or something like that. So anyway, guys, that's about it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. In regard to question time, it will probably be, what do you guys hope to see in the second season or second part of Transformers Robots in Disguise 2015? Personally, I will probably have a video up maybe shortly after this, or maybe, I'm not really sure actually. It will probably happen around the time that it would probably happen around the time that the next season finally starts, because it has been a while. I released this stuff way after most of this was released, so just understand this now that I probably will end up releasing a video in regard to what I hope for the season closer to that time rather than like immediately, because there's going to be so much time in between that it's going to be so insignificant by the time that it happens that I doubt that you guys are going to be looking as much. But if you guys are, I would love to know your opinion on what you guys are hoping for, because personally I have a lot of interesting hopes for different characters I want to see, different people. I mean, not actually, not when I say not people, but just different, Autobots, different Decepticons I hope to see, just a whole plethora of stuff. And currently speaking, we really don't know if they're gonna go anywhere with anything. So hopefully we're gonna get some cool stuff. I mean, what we've gotten so far has been awesome. I think that Robots in Disguise has been a great season, and I hope it will continue to be an excellent season. So anyway, guys, please like, comment, subscribe, and thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in whatever video I make next. And so anyway, guys, goodbye.